remember being abused in a holy place, a place of worship. This is a place of worship. And in my first memory, I always said, I remember tall village Gothics.
Sharpener.
Yeah.
Sharpener.
Yeah.
A sharpener.
Yeah. Yes. Because we focus on them when the abuse is happening, and that's always stuck in my mind with that.
Caldey Island is known as the Holy Island of the UK, but what occurred to the little children on that island is nothing short of a nightmare. Caldey Island is owned by the monks of Caldey Abbey. The island is home to about 40 permanent residents, including monks and visiting monks that go there as a retreat. The monks sell chocolate and perfume in order to make their living on this little island. The island is home to caves and creepy ruins from medieval times. It appears tranquil and peaceful, with a rolling green countryside, imposing cliffs, and white sandy beaches. The island's physical beauty leaves little to the imagination and routinely welcomes thousands of excitable children onto its shores every year. However, many are unaware that the island's chocolate box aesthetics hides a chilling secret. A dark history of sexual abuse against infants as young as 3, stretching back over 50 years at the hands of monks that lived on the island, who turned out to be monsters in hiding. Before we begin, viewer discretion is advised. As you can tell by now, this case involves the essay of children. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Shed, the place we discuss rarely told true crime, right here in my little she shed. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can join us here at least once weekly. We'd love to have you. I'm just a nerdy country girl telling true crime, and I'd love for all you nerdy people out there to join me. Just a whole group of nerds. Hey, I'll even let you cool people in. One monster in particular was Father Thaddeus Kotick. He was a former soldier who fought in the Free Polish Army during the Second World War. Father Thaddeus moved to the island in 1947 and became an ordained priest in 1957. He was signed to work in the Abbey's dairy. He would befriend the families who regularly visited the island, along with a handful of farming families who lived there. Father Thaddeus would invite the children to the dairy and give them handmade chocolates and fresh produce. Father Thaddeus used chocolate from the Abbey dairy and sweets in a chest in the garage to strike up relationships with the children. Once inside the garage of the dairy, he would lock the door, allow the children to eat as many sweets as they wanted while he lifted them to his lap, removed their clothes, and essayed them. Sometimes he was brave enough to volunteer to babysit while their parents went out, pulling the sleepy children from their beds to essay them. He would also essay children on isolated beaches, the ruins, and in caves on the island. These encounters would sometimes involve other monks that were staying on the island. Father Thaddeus had a kink where he liked to abuse 2 sisters at the same time. He would put one sister on his lap, give the other one chocolate, and abuse that sister, and then switch his lap to the other sister and abuse her while he gave the other sister chocolate. There were other pedophiles who were monks on the island, like Father Charles Jeffries, who was a friend of Father Thaddeus. Father Thaddeus and Father Jeffries was known to send postcards, letters, and videos to their victims after they left the island. They were also known to visit the children at their own family home. There was also other pedophiles that turned up at the island every year. You didn't have to be a monk, just as long as you was a pedophile. It was a safe place to abuse children with no consequence, as Caldey Island had no child protection measures in place, and police never patrolled the island, ever. Sympathetic monks could be trusted to smooth over anything that might be dangerous to abusers. Somehow, Caldey Island became a hub for sick monsters who enjoyed preying on little children. Paul Ashton was able to hide out on the island for 7 years. He was on the run for possessing more than 5,000 indecent images of children and arrived on the island in 2004 to hide from the police. He changed his name, phone number, encrypted his emails after moving to the island. He operated the island's satellite internet and phone system, managed online accommodation bookings and the accounts, and worked in the mailroom. He put himself in an ideal position to continue with his sick behavior. In July 2011, an anonymous call was made to Crime Stoppers by someone who had actually seen Ashton's face on its most wanted list. When he was discovered at Caldey Island in 2011, more indecent images were found in his computer in the monastery. This anonymous caller had become leery of Ashton after Ashton said they had met another family, including 2 young boys on Caldey Island, and had invited them to his private quarters in the monastery. Reverend John Shannon was Caldey Island's parish priest at St. David's Church in 2008. At the time, Paul Ashton had been living on the island. Shannon took on the role of priest on a trial basis with the Abbey's approval, after islanders asked for the parish church to be reopened. He was subsequently caught on the mainland with pictures of children as young as 9. Shannon admitted downloading 740 indecent images of children and was jailed for 8 months in 2011. 3 of the images were level 5 of the most serious nature, and 75 were level 4. Another convicted criminal, John Cronin, is suspected to have lived under assumed name in a cottage owned by the monastery for a month in 2009. Cronin was known to pose as a priest and was labeled by psychiatrists as one of the most dangerous sexual predators in Britain. Victims of the monks on the island only recently have been coming forward. 50-something victims have now came forward so far. Mark first met Father Thaddeus in the 1960s when his family visited the island. He remembers being met at the island green by a man in very funny clothes. This was Father Thaddeus. The monk made Mark and his family feel privileged by inviting them into the monastery's private walled garden and then serving them tea, squash, and biscuits. The following year in the same garden, Mark, then 8 years old, says Father Thaddeus lifted him up on his lap and abused him. Mark kept quiet because he did not want to get into trouble. Father Thaddeus behaved as if nothing had even happened, and the following year the ordeal continued. Father Thaddeus encouraged Mark to help wash up. While Mark was at the sink, he said that Father Thaddeus stood behind him, wrapped his arm around him, and rubbed the boy's private area. On another occasion, Mark says he was helping to wrap the chocolate bars made at the monastery's small factory when Father Thaddeus approached him from behind and then kicked him. One woman who has now came forward as an adult said she was only 3 years old when the perverted monks essayed her and her sister inside the island's dairy. The victim lived on Caldey in the 1970s when her father worked on the island's farm. She said Father Thaddeus would call her and her sister his little angels. The monk created opportunities to be alone with the girls in areas where the public were not allowed. Typically, he would take them to secluded woodlands, remote caves or beaches, or to religious shrines which he had built around the island. He told one of the girls that if ever they betrayed him and told anybody of what took place, God would send them to hell where demons would pluck out their eyes.
Everything else about him was so kind and nice, and he gave us love and attention, which we weren't getting at home. So we just forgave him in our hearts. We were always being taught to forgive anyway because we were Roman Catholics. And that's the centre of the entire religion. Turn the other cheek, be a masochist and forgive. You know, you didn't go around putting yourself forward. So although we mentioned it, it was minimised.
Joanna and Teresa Biggs were just 6 and 7 years old when Father Thaddeus began abusing them. Teresa Biggs would never leave the island alive. After they were both assaulted by Father Thaddeus, the girls knew to begin avoiding him, even if he attempted to give them sweets. Maybe especially if he attempted to give them sweets or promised them a little kitten to pet. That was another one of his little things he did for children. Teresa was swept away out to sea and drowned on July 18, 1977, while a nun on the island was supposed to be watching and caring for this little girl. The nun, Sister Sheila Singleton, blamed Teresa for her own death. She claimed that she had forbidden Teresa to swim and that Teresa had disobeyed her by going into the water. Her sister Joanna says this is a lie. The nun made Joanna help her put on her arm floaties. Teenagers at the beach gave evidence the nun had allowed a large group of children to swim in a force 5 to 6 gale at a beach with dangerous ocean currents. They said that they saw Joanna put the floaties on Teresa, and the nun led her to the water's edge and asked a boy of 14 to look after her in the water. The boy, James Donnelly, gave evidence that Sister Singleton had made her way towards him with Teresa, who was wearing inflated armbands, and asked him to take the little girl down to the water. James told the inquest that he went in the water with Teresa, leaving her playing just right in the shallow water while he went out to the deeper water. James lost sight of Teresa, saw that she had been swept into deeper water, and tried to reach her with help from another boy, John Lewis, who was 12, and he came to help. John reached her, and Teresa held on to him and told him, "Don't let go of me," but he was about to drown himself, so he had to get her off of him to keep from drowning. John said he then pushed Teresa's arms away so he could get out of the water and then get help. Teresa at that time was swept further out and was waving her arms and screaming. Another boy, Anthony Bonar, 15, swam towards her but could not reach her because the current was too strong. By then, Anthony said he could only see 2 orange armbands floating on the water and the girl's arms waving in the air. Her head was under the water, he said. The Coast Guard was called and retrieved the little girl's body. A doctor who met the rescue boat at the slipway pronounced her dead. The whole time Teresa was drowning, no adult on that island attempted to save her. Not only was the nun there, but a group of monks were on the rocks that day, and all they were doing was standing there and praying. Makes me wonder if one of those monks that was there that day was Father Thaddeus, and maybe he thought that Teresa's drowning was a blessing in disguise.
Father Thaddeus started becoming over-friendly with me. He started abusing me in the dunes, and then it led on in time into the old Abbey ruins. It was a horrible time.
The most outspoken victim is Kevin O'Connell. He was just 6 when he was first stayed on Caldey Island for a family holiday with his parents and siblings. It was a free holiday arranged by the Catholic Church. Kevin's dad never worked and relied on handouts from social services. Social services introduced his parents to a local Catholic priest whose parish was in a small town a few miles away from their home. The priest started to give Kevin's family food, secondhand clothing, toys, and cash. Kevin and his siblings started to go to church every Saturday for Bible lessons and Sundays for confession and Mass. The priest was very keen to get Kevin to be an altar boy, so he decided to send Kevin's family for a free holiday on Caldey Island. At the island, Kevin's parents became friends with Father Thaddeus and Father Jeffries. Kevin's father was physically abusive, so Kevin began enjoying all the male attention he got from the monks there on the island. After the family was at the island for the summer, Father Jeffries visited the family when they returned. When Kevin was in his bed one night, he was awoken by someone else crawling into his bed. He soon realized it was Father Jeffries. Father Jeffries started to touch him in the groin area, and then he started to rape him. Although Kevin was too young to even know what the man was doing to him. Kevin screamed and cried for his dad and mom, but no one came to rescue him. The following morning, Kevin woke up alone in his bed. He got dressed and went downstairs. Everyone was just acting normal, except his dad, who took him to another room, pulled down his pants, and put some sort of cream on Kevin's private bits. But he did not say a single word to Kevin. You imagine knowing what happened to your child by a monk, letting it happen, encouraging it to happen so you can get free gifts from these priests and monks? It's just so disturbing. After breakfast, Father Jeffries wanted the family to do confession with him. When it got to be Kevin's turn, the priest spoke sexually and upset him. Kevin's parents arranged for Kevin and his siblings to go back with Father Jeffries to spend some more time on this evil island. He said Father Jeffries took him and introduced him to other priests and bishops on the island. Kevin now felt like Father Jeffrey was showing them his prize. Kevin said while on the island he would wake up naked and there'd be underpants on the bed.
When I was there, I saw a young boy there, and he was walking around in his white underpants, and we looked at each other, and I knew what he was there for, and it's just our eyes met, and and I knew exactly what he was there for, and nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. We were just horribly abused.
At some point, Father Thaddeus started giving Kevin attention too. They spent lots of times over the week just sitting in the sand dunes, eating chocolate, and Father Thaddeus would be stroking his hair or his legs and kissing the top of his head. The next time Kevin visited the island, Father Thaddeus started groping him. Then one evening, Father Thaddeus took Kevin to the old ruins. At the ruins, Kevin was set on an altar stone and was given an alcoholic drink called mead. Other monks joined Kevin and Father Thaddeus at the ruins, and as Kevin was sitting on the altar stone, the monks began to grope him. Kevin was only 10 years old at the time this occurred. The monks started to play with themselves, and I don't know how to delicately say this. I'm trying not to use words, but they played with themselves, and juices came on Kevin's shirt, and it was soaked from the monks doing that to this little boy. I know it's horrible. I don't even know how to say that. It's awful. Kevin was taken to the ruins several more times after that, and sometimes even gang. Kevin said that he witnessed children being dragged away into dark, damp caves to the ruins and the woods to be essayed by not only monks and priests, but just men coming onto the island, as it was a safe haven for them to abuse and rape children as young as 3 years old. At 11 years old, Kevin's parents and the priest made him return to Caldey Island. He cried and did not want to go back, but he was given no choice. His youngest brother came with him this time. Arriving on Caldey, it was not long before Father Thaddeus came looking for him and wanted to take Kevin's younger brother with him. But Kevin told him he wanted to go instead of his brother. Kevin did not want him to start doing horrific things to his little brother like he had done to him. Again, Father Thaddeus took Kevin to the ruins, and the abuse started again with other monks watching what was occurring inside those awful ruins.
Abuse happened, and other monks watched with him. This is why it happened. And sometimes inside, but the worst time is just Bernard and pleasure himself only while others watched. I drew Bernard, Kai, they told me you're locked in. This place is just full of nightmares. Every room here has a horrible memory. I remember this place as if it was yesterday. I feel sick. I feel like I want to cry. Because, it brings back nothing but nightmares.
Kevin believed this time that they were going to attempt to kill him in order to hide the abuse. He believed this explains what happened to him on his last visit on this horrible island. One dark evening, Kevin's carrier found him outside with Father Thaddeus leaning over him. Kevin had suffered a fractured skull and was taken to the hospital. He did not remember how he had even received this fracture or what had happened the night that his fracture had occurred. He just remembered waking up in the hospital with his parents by his side. He was never allowed to return back to the island after this incident. His parents never talked about the incident and would not let him discuss it. Although Kevin still received letters and videos from this evil monk. And here's one of these videos that the monk sent him. And it was in the ruins where Kevin was abused so many times. Video was a nightmare to Kevin. And he found it in his attic years later and turned it into police. As an adult, Kevin has since visited the island, but Father Thaddeus died in 1992 without any punishments for all the abuse he perpetrated on these little children. Kevin still has nightmares about the ruins where he was raped by the monks. 2017, several women received compensation from the Caldey Abbey in an out-of-court settlement. It's come to light that the Abbey was told by a victim about the abuse in the 1980s, but did not report it until 2014. It was kept hidden. There were several that came forward saying they were abused, and they were threatened that they could not tell they would go to hell, and told all these bad things would happen to them. So the children kept quiet.
If I ever said anything to anybody, three things would happen to me. One, God would turn his back. Two, the devil will have me either through the mirror under the bed. And three, a severed hand would climb through the letterbox upstairs onto my bed and strangle me. And I was 9 years old. That horrible nightmare lasted all my life.
After Father Thaddeus died, he was laid to rest right there on Caldey Island. His presence there is still causing a haunting shadow of evil over the island. So far as of 2024, 50 survivors have come forward about the abuse that occurred on that island. There's thought to be possibly many more victims that have not come forward for some reason or another, whether they don't want to admit what happened to them or just too scared to. They have not come forward. In 2024, an independent review into historic claims of CA has been commissioned by Caldey Island, finally. The appointment of a new superior of Caldey Island's Abbey, Father Jan Rossi, has led to the review being commissioned, together with new safeguarding policies being introduced in order to protect the future children that may visit the island. Hopefully, Caldey Island has changed a lot since this occurred, and no monster monks exist on this island anymore. I'm not saying all monks are horrible, just some of these that were on this island were horrible. Sure, they got great monks too. Let's just safeguard these children so we can keep it positive on Caldey Island. No more of this abuse in the future. Hopefully, they're protecting their children now. All right, guys, I love you guys, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. I hope y'all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I did, and I took the week off, as you can tell. I'm just now getting back to it. I'll go get Simon so you can tell him bye. Max is laying on the floor right here. Max is waiting on Simon, and we're going to tell y'all bye. Simon's coming, I promise. He's peeing on a tree. He had to stop and pee on a tree. No hurry here. Tell him bye, Simon. Got to get back a little bit. Tell him bye, Max. Say we'll see y'all next time at the Murder She Shed. We love y'all, and pray y'all have a blessed week. Blessed week. Yeah, that. Welcome to the She Shed, where your head is filled with dread, and all your true crime needs are fed. Right here from my little She Shed. Yeah, probably not. Sorry. He's moseying on out. He's slow as Jiminy Christmas. Okay. Sorry about that. You little stinky boy. Stinky butt. Little stinky butt. Stinky butt. Two stinky butts right here together. Two stinky butts right here together that are fighting. I got stinky butt fighting going on right now. Stinky butt fighting. All right. See y'all. Bye. Tell him bye, Max. Tell him bye, Max.